When I was 7, I used video games as an escape from my reality, an escape from stress, from anger, and used it as a way to find happiness, to find laughter, and most importantly, to find myself. And it wasn't until I found a game that I didn't know at the time, when I was 7, would change my life 10 years later. As Dark Souls found a way to help me overcome depression, anxiety, stress, and most importantly, saved me. As it saved countless others and also taught us many life lessons that we'd be able to use in our life. The games taught us to keep pushing, no matter how impossible the odds may be, to keep going. And in its own words, to never go hollow. I can say for a fact that this game saved me, as we'll talk about Dark Souls. When you think about games that can have an impact on, your life, you think about story games, really beautiful games like Red Dead Redemption, and probably not games like What the fuck is that? But the story started when I was 7 years old. I grew up playing video games. I played a little bit of Dark Souls, and for some reason, for obvious reasons, I didn't understand shit about this game. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. Hell, it took me 20 minutes to get out the damn character selection. It took me 20 minutes! And time passed. And fast forward about a decade later, I was entering my third year of high school. I was in a happy relationship, and she was happy, I was happy, and I was doing anything to make her happier. But for some reason, all that effort, all that work we both put in, eventually we both left one another. We both felt like we had to, and it was better for both of us. And, we both were sad about it. Obviously, I went through the 3 stages that everyone goes through. You cry a lot, you eat a lot, and then you sleep a lot. And I was in that stage for about a couple months, and nothing really gave me happiness, and I could not take my mind off this girl. I'd go to sleep and I'd just hear her voice, and I just couldn't escape her. I couldn't beat it. And I chose to rekindle my love for video games, as it always helped me, and back when I was a little boy, I used it to escape my life, and now I needed it more than ever. And so I got a PlayStation 5 for my birthday, and I was so addicted. Man, I got the same feeling I did when I was a little kid, playing on the Wii, playing on the Xbox 360. I was hooked. And one of my friends were at my house, and he was introduced me to all these games, that I should play. And I was like, okay, I'll play this one, I'll play that one. And, I was playing them, and they wouldn't really stick with me, but I enjoyed them nonetheless. But I saw him playing a game called Elden Ring. You see, I did not know much about this game at the time. All I knew was that it was really popular, and I bought it, and I watched an 1.5-hour video explaining the concepts of it, because I never played a game like this in my life. And I can make a whole another video about Elden Ring, because man, what an experience that was. Elden Ring was almost a perfect game, and it was the reactant that helped me get introduced to the Souls series, because I wanted more. I wanted more of that feeling, and I wanted to be addicted. Because when I played Elden Ring, I spent about 50 hours on that within 10 days, because I was just so addicted, and I wanted to, explore the other games. Because if Elden Ring was like that, how good would the Dark Souls trilogy be? I was so excited to play Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Bloodborne, and I was just so happy and grateful, because I found a new reason to wake up every day. Because there would be days where I just lay in my bed all day and sleep and just eat food, and it was just not a healthy lifestyle. I wasn't happy, and I was just so stressed with schoolwork, so stressed with life, and just so stressed about getting over her. And ever since I started playing, I started waking up early, doing my work, because I know after I finished all my work I'd be able to play. And I just kept this lifestyle going. But life was going amazing, and Dark Souls 1 was the reason for that. And to explain that is, when I first got Dark Souls again, I heard the menu music, the character selection music, and I was just brought back to a time when I was innocent, young, and just happier. And I knew this would be way different than Elden Ring. I was happy though, because I finally got past the Undead Asylum. So it only took me 10 years, but the game was hard. It was unforgiving, it was hard, and there were very many janky mechanics, and I loved every single moment of that. And I watched hours of lore videos trying to understand what the hell am I even doing, and like what's the point of all this. But the game was tough. It was a really tough game, and there were some moments where I was actually about to give up, especially in Blighttown. Oh my gosh. Replaying Blighttown again is worse than torture. You can't pay me to play this piece of shit for an hour or 2 hours or how many hours. I can't. I hate this level so much. It's so bad.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
What I did like about Blighttown is that it taught me a life lesson to just not give up. I was dying over and over again, losing my souls, and I was also losing my sanity. I didn't know how long this would go on for, but I kept pushing. I kept going, and once I saw that bonfire, and once I made it to the bottom, I knew that I did it. I was just so happy, and I was so proud of myself. And I realized the challenges of life are going to be exactly like that. It is going to be like Blighttown, maybe even worse. Maybe you got fired, maybe you got cheated on, maybe you got into an accident, maybe you failed an exam, maybe you got diagnosed with something. No matter how negative the factors play into our lives, we can keep moving on. We can keep moving, and maybe we can find the next bonfire. And maybe we can do that one thing, that thing that we try over and over again. We get rejected, or we can't pass it, or we can't get accepted into this. And that, when I was writing the script, I was reading it and I did not know how much I relate to these factors. And looking back at my life and while playing Dark Souls, I realized that these enemies, these bosses that seem impossible, and these areas that seem just like hell, we have to go through this in order to be strong. As when I replayed Dark Souls, I was just going through these bosses like easy. You know, some of these bosses took me 20, 30 tries. Beta Chaos took me about 40. It was just so frustrating and infuriating being lower level. And I was the same level next time around. I went through these bosses like butter. It was just so easy, and it was just me getting stronger as a human. And I would translate my real life problems to how I would, confront the game problems in Dark Souls. I would, try this over and over again. I would do this, I would do that. I was doing things, and I was succeeding in them, and I was happy. And life was just amazing. I could look at myself in the mirror and be happy for who I am and what I am. Now I invite problems in as a sort of a boss. I look at my problems now and treat them as you would bosses. And I seem to have more fun and more successful in these challenges, these assignments, these projects that look impossible at first. But when you start putting in the work, when you start trying over and over again, it will work out. And if I have any last words, it's to not go hollow. Do not give in to the darkness. Do not give in to yourself, to others. Do not give in. If I found a purpose in my life, you will as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. I know this is my first YouTube video, and I don't know how this works. And it's gonna take a while to get these videos out. It takes a long time. I have a lot of stuff going on the side, but I have a lot more projects coming in the future. Stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys when I see you guys.